Hello and welcome to Your City. I'm your host, Lynn Turner Fitzgerald. Mike Pigg joins us today. Mike is director of the Billings Park and Recreation Department. Lots going on. I want to thank you for being here because I know you're busy.
Thanks for inviting me.
And it's a very busy time of year for
Yeah.
Billings Park and Recreation. So we have camps starting real soon, right, for mostly adolescents, right?
Correct, yeah. We do some adult camps, but most of the youth camps is where we're going in the summer, yeah.
Right, and they're popular, aren't they? They fill up.
Every one of them fills up, yeah. If you're not getting ready to sign up April 1, a good chance you're not going to get in a camp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there any chance of adding more camps?
So we get to a limit on space. So we need an indoor space, so in case the weather turns bad, we need to be able to bring the kids in.
Yeah.
So we only can go where we have indoor space, but we maximize that. I mean, we run 2-3 camps out of one space just to try and get everything we need in. So
Now, what about, and these are primarily summertime, right?
correct.
Do you have anything in the fall or winter months?
We do, and if you think about it in the fall or winter, what we do is we move into the middle schools. And so when the middle school gets done with all their programs, and they usually are all done by about 5 or 6, then we take over in their gymnasiums and we move in and we'll hold a 6th grade volleyball program or a youth basketball program, and then we do our adult sports too inside the gyms.
Oh, okay.
So, yep, we do quite a bit of activities in the winter. If it's really a good conducive winter, we'll go skiing. We'll take and do a cross country skiing course and things like that. So.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, some of the big news right now, though, is the renovation of North Park. And I'm watching it as I drive by every day. They're working on it now.
Exactly. Yeah, we've got the playground is going in as we speak,
Right.
which is kind of fun to watch that get erected.
Yeah.
And then we've brought the new bathrooms in sometime right after Christmas, so that's when the new bathroom is landed. So all of that's going right now.
Okay, well, we've got a couple of renderings of what the new North Park will look like when you're done. So we'll take a look. This is it's a little bit difficult to see. So can you explain? Is that a baseball field there?
Yeah, so that already exists. So the
Right.
baseball field's there. So if you just look at this, I wish it was in color, but it's not. Up on the top right corner, that's where we're putting in a disc golf course. So there'll be a little 6-hole disc golf course going in there. So it gives it more activity. And then over in the top left-hand corner, that's going to be a nice little new dog park.
Really?
Yeah, and so people will be able to off-leash dog park there.
Okay, and that will be fenced, it looks like.
Correct, and it's kind of fenced kind of interestingly. So we ran a diagonal fence across the middle, so there's actually 2 halves to it.
Oh, okay.
And the reason is dog parks tend to wear out really rapidly. So we put the dogs in on one side, do some maintenance activities on the other side, then we flip it back. And so, yep, and there's a good kind of color picture. So has drinking fountains, benches. We're going to add a whole bunch of trees as we get going. The nice thing is it's already existing turf. That's where the old Naval Reserve was.
Okay.
And when they pulled that out, they planted grass in there. And so we're just building over the top of the existing turf.
I see. Well, tell me the rules about dog parks. Dogs are dogs.
Yeah.
Are they going to get in fights?
Well, yeah. And as you go there, if you know your dog and there could be an issue, you're really going to watch your dog. Your dog still has to be under your control,
Right.
even though it's running around and off leash,
and
not totally under your control, but they're enjoying their time. So yeah, but there's occasional dog fights, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully people break them up properly and
there's probably fights on the playground too.
Exactly.
With non-dog people, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every basketball court's had a little bit of a pushing match too, so.
Okay, so the lower photograph, what are we looking at there?
So you down there on the bottom right, so that's the entryway, and so we put 2 gates on the side. So when you come in, then that gate closes, and then the next one you can open and go through. That way we don't have any dogs escaping. You got to think about how they're out there running around. And then you see it split in half, and so the right-hand half might be open one week, and the left-hand half open the next week. And just has to do with maintenance activities and trying to keep the turf as healthy as possible, because if we don't have grass, we have mud. Yep. And nobody wants their dog running around in mud. So,
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope you're enforcing the pick up after your dog rules.
So I don't get to enforce anything. I just get to encourage people. So hopefully people are self-policing and then, helping when other people don't.
Yeah, okay.
It can be quite a problem, of course.
So this is year-round?
It will be year-round, yes. Yep.
Okay.
The drinking fountains will only be open of course, when it's warm enough to have water flowing. But the rest of the time, yeah, it'll be open.
How much space is this?
I think we calculated it just under 2 acres.
Wow.
So each
It's a nice
side's
big
about
park.
an acre. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good size. You know, it's not nearly as big as like Centennial or High Sierra, but those ones would be the ones where you'd bring your dog and probably leave them running in there for an hour or longer. This would be more like, hey, I'm home for my lunch hour. I'm going to walk my dog over there, let him run around for 20 minutes, and take him back home.
Okay,
So it's
okay.
not necessarily that long. You know, let's go for 2 hours and play with all the other dogs. It's more let's get a quick break.
I had no idea there was so much that was involved in a dog park.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's amazing when you get to designing
It
these
is.
things. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of fun. We don't have a lot of these little small dog parks around town, and it's
Right.
kind of an experiment in that. And you know, hopefully it goes good, and we can kind of start looking to see if there isn't other places around town that would benefit from this.
what's the general rule about dogs in the parks in Billings, non-dog parks?
Yeah, so non-dog parks, dogs can be in every park,
Okay.
not every park. So I'll take that back. Like Amon Park, you're not supposed to have your dog there at all. If you're in Pioneer Park, your dog has to be on a leash, under your control, and you have to have a method of cleaning up after your dog with you. So in your pocket, you have to have a bag or something like that, and your dog has to be on leash.
Okay.
You're not supposed to let your dog off leash and play tennis, fetch with them. And a lot of people do. They're breaking the law. They shouldn't be doing that. So
Okay.
yeah.
So pickleball,
Pickleball, yeah, great.
the sport that's storming the country.
Yeah.
You will have pickleball at North Park.
Correct. So currently there is a tennis court and a basketball court there at North Park. We'll get those resurfaced. That's in this next year's budget. So in fiscal year 25, we have money in there to resurface those and restripe them. And what we're going to do is stripe the tennis court for pickleball. So it'll have 2 pickleball courts in where that tennis court is currently. We can put 2 pickleball courts in there. So yeah, it'll have
So
pickleball.
the striping is, can it still serve as a tennis court?
Well,
No?
it gets a little confusing with all the lines.
Yeah.
So we're going to just convert it just to pickleball.
Really?
Yeah.
So is tennis really becoming kind of passé?
No, there's still a large number of people that are playing tennis, but we have built, when you look at Central Park, we just rebuilt all those courts,
Right.
and we're about to rebuild the lower courts at Pioneer. We have really nice courts up at Castle Rock Park, and we have really nice courts at Rose Park. So we have a large number of tennis courts, but we don't have very many pickleball courts. So.
No.
Yeah.
Where are the other ones?
So we have pickleball courts at Central, and those ones are lit. So that's on a really
Nice.
on a nice concrete surface too, lit all year long. So if it's a really nice evening in January, go play.
Yeah.
And then the other place is at Lillis Park. We have
Okay.
courts there. And then we have some courts that are striped at Castle Rock Park, but it's over the top of tennis. And
Oh, okay.
this year when we go back into resurface the courts at Rose and places like that, we're actually going to ghost line in some pickleball courts differently though, not playing over the top of the tennis net, which doesn't work very well for us, but on the side, and then people would either bring their own nets or we would find a way to have nets available for them, portable nets to put in.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Because it doesn't work very good going over the top of the tennis nets, because the difference between tennis and pickleball is the height of the net.
Yeah.
And so when you want to play,
Pickleball's shorter, isn't it? Yeah.
when you want to play pickleball, you have to crank that net
I
way down,
see.
and it puts pressure on the net, and it puts pressure on the posts that hold the net up. And so we start to have these posts that lean in, and now that's no good for anybody.
Right.
And so it's just better if we don't, put both on the same surface. As far as over the net, we put them on the same surface, but not over the net.
Okay, so back to North Park.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about the playground.
Yeah. So the playground, that's a fun project. So we tore out the old one, and we've got a brand new one coming in, and it absolutely fills that space with play activity. So it's really cool. All the different types of things we put in there. I was walking through there the other day, and I didn't realize that there's a frog in this one. It's giant concrete frog, and some mushrooms and things like that the kids can climb around on. But another thing is we got a different source of funding. CBDG funds came in to help us, and we're putting in adult exercise equipment that'll be right next to the playground. So as your kids are playing, you can sit on the stationary bike and pedal and
Oh,
get some
nice.
activity. Plus, we're putting in a brand new shelter. So there used to be that old kind of junky shelter that was there.
Yeah.
We've pulled that one out, and we got a nice brand new shelter coming in there too. So that's really going to activate that whole space.
Wow.
Yeah, and the playground is going to be really dynamic. It's got a lot of features to it.
So North Park is been around a long time. You were telling me it's the second oldest park in the city?
Yeah, so
most
if you
likely?
think when the city was designed and laid out, it was laid out right on the sides of the railroad, right? So
Right.
north side and south side of the road. And most people don't understand this, but directly north of South Park is North Park. They're on a line. It seems not right.
Really?
Yeah, but if you stand in one of those parks and you look straight north or straight south, you're looking at the other park.
Really?
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
It's a weird thing. It doesn't feel that way because you think no, but you think about how the city has turned over the
Yeah.
years, and so
Yeah. Well, speaking of South Park, there's been a lot of talk about the pool
yeah.
and the disrepair of the pool. Is that going to be taken care of? Is there a plan in place?
Yeah, so we're currently doing an aquatic study for the whole town, right?
Right.
And that's going to study everything from splash pads, wading pools, also to pools. How many pools do we need? Where do we need them? And what needs to happen with South Park Pool? So that aquatic study will identify what needs to go on with all of that. And then also as part of that study is they're going to give us some preliminary design thoughts as to what South Park Pool could look like if we chose to rebuild it. And then I have money in the next year's budget to do a design for South Park Pool.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a total rebuild then?
Total rebuild, yep. So that whole building and pool would come out.
How old is that?
110 years old.
No.
It's the oldest pool in the state, and I've also been told, I didn't do the research, but somebody told me it's the oldest pool west of the Mississippi.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's still in use. So
Yeah.
yeah. Now it's changed in configurations and looks a lot different than it did back in day one, but I think this is the original building. No, I don't know that for sure, but it just seems like it,
Yeah.
But when we talk to the designers and the consultants that we've hired, we talked to them about hooking the pool onto that really nice splash pad that we just built there, and hooking the two together so that it starts to provide more of a variety for different age groups. So maybe we can capture the really young kids from the splash pool and having them come over into some water, and then getting the older kids because we put some slides and diving board or whatever in. So you kind of get that whole age
Would they
group.
actually be connected and share the same water?
Well, I don't know how about sharing the same water. They could probably share the same
like
water.
a slow walk-in
Ideally,
entrance?
ideally it would be a zero entry pool, so you could just roll right in. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So currently the way the splash pool there at South works, it's a recycling system. So that water comes in, goes in, sprays up in the air, and the kids play in it, goes back down, gets filtered, goes through a UV process, chlorinating process, goes back out, and shoots back up again. So it's very similar to a pool, right? So we
Right.
could connect the systems, but there's about 6 big pumps that run those features there in South Park Pool. Or South Park Splash Pad. If you haven't been to it, it's a really cool splash pad. It's the nicest splash pad in town.
Is it
It's
really?
really cool how it works.
So is South Park Pool heated?
It is,
It is, because it wasn't always.
and we don't heat very much. We don't even heat Rose Park Pool very often because sun usually helps us with that. So yeah.
Rose Park's cold.
Some people say it's too cold. Some people say it's too
I
hot.
know.
Everybody has their own thing.
You get used to it.
I like hot tubs.
Yeah, yeah, you do. So, speaking of aquatic centers, there was a huge project put before the voters, and it was ice skating rinks and courts and was it an Olympic-sized pool?
That was a 50-meter pool,
Right,
and a
right.
recreation pool also. So it had
Yeah, that's
2
right.
pool components.
But it failed.
It failed, yes.
But it's not dead.
Well, so that project is, or
it is,
that
okay.
size of that project. But so there's still a funding source out there for us to build something down there, right, at Amon Park, or next to Amon Park. The South TIF district has capacity to borrow enough money to build something down there. Nothing to the size of the one that we had proposed, but something. So we're working with the South TIF district to design what's going to best serve the community and see how we could get it built down there.
And there's, well, is it a public government project? Is it a combined kind of force now?
So they're kind, the TIF district kind of advises the council as to how that money should be spent. But it is tax dollars. It's property tax dollars. And then, of course, that land that's next to Amon Park where that would be built, that's public land. So it's technically a public process.
Right.
Because it's, public money on public land.
Right.
Yeah.
Why do you think it failed the first time?
It was, if you think about it, it was a large ask for the community, and
a
think
big
about
ask.
all what was going on at that point in time.
Property taxes had gone up.
They went up severely right
Right.
there. And then also, there was a real big spike in crime at that point. If you remember right, we had some stabbings and some killings and some shootings. And so it seemed like every day on the news, there was somebody getting shot or somebody shooting up a house or something like that. And all of a sudden, not that public safety hasn't always been in the forefront, but it really took a big leap as far as, people's focus.
Right.
And so I think between the tax increase and the public safety, and then there's just those people that are going to vote no matter what.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And so it was just too big of a hurdle. We couldn't come over all of those things, I thought there was a lot of good in that, right? It was a very big ask, but there was a lot of good. This community needs to start thinking long range what we're going to do parks and rec wise.
Right.
Castle Rock Park, last community park that was built.
I was going to ask you how you determine why or where a new park should be built.
So if you think about it, where's all the growth right now? It's all going out on that west end.
Yes.
There's a huge amount of growth out there. We don't have a large community park out there.
Oh.
Then think about it, if you get clear out there to Shiloh and further out, where's the next community park? I mean,
Right.
I guess you could call Stewart Park, but it really doesn't have that much play value. So I think you're going all the way to Rose, to get to your
Yeah.
next community park. That's a long ways,
Yeah.
So we need a park out on the west end. I think as the Heights gets going, the inner belt loop goes on out there, I would really think we need to buy some parkland out there on that, because that's going to be a busy corridor,
Right.
and there's going to be a lot of activity out there,
Well, I know the fire department is planning a fire station out in that west end growth,
Yep.
the new growth out there.
Yeah.
Well, how do you obtain the land? I mean, you just from a developer or somebody private owns the land and you buy it from them?
So
Are there public lands out there?
the nice thing about on the west end is we already own Cottonwood Park, which is at 54th and
Yeah,
Grand. So
right.
we already own 50 acres or 30 acres. I think it's 35 acres right there. And we have a master plan for that coming forward right now. So we already own that chunk of land. So it would be a really nice park space. But when you get into community parks, usually it's either donated land or we have to buy a large tract.
Okay.
Developers, they have to provide a certain amount of land for public use when they do a development, or they have to pay cash in lieu of that. But that's usually to get you smaller neighborhood-sized parks.
Right.
Think of a park like Hawthorne Park, or even Gorham Park or things like that. Just smaller little parks that would be in a neighborhood, more to serve that neighborhood than it is for the whole community to come and use. So that's more what you get from developers, and that's what they should be providing,
Right.
And then the community should be looking at, hey, what kind of a large park do we want? And then, are we going to need soccer fields and open space and basketball courts and tennis courts? And how does that all tie together? Because if we don't do it right, we put a lot of pressure on the community parks that we already have.
Well, how are they self-supporting? Are parks with the fees from classes and things like that? Is it a wash or it's not?
No.
Okay.
I'm a large, or not a large. I'm a part. My budget is part of the general fund. So
Yeah.
we get about 3% of the general fund. That's where we get our tax dollars. The fees for recreation activities and stuff like that, they cover the costs, the direct costs for those recreation activities.
Oh,
So
sure.
if you think about it, if we provide snacks at a camp, or we have to transport kids with a bus, or
You have
we
to pay for the instructors.
correct. So all of those costs are
Yeah.
covered by the fee that we charge. So there's some indirect costs that aren't covered by the camps, but most of the direct costs are. But as far as maintaining parks and stuff like that, first off, I believe my philosophy is parks should be free. You know, I mean, it's the one free space that we have that everybody can go to. We don't ask, you know, what color you are, what your, you know, income is, how close you live to it, anything like that. We just invite
Yeah.
everybody to parks, you know, and so that's the cool thing about parks is they're free to everybody and everybody can come utilize them. So,
What's the next big project after North Park?
well, we always have a number of large projects
Yeah.
going. Another fun project we have going this summer is we're redoing the tennis courts, the southern tennis courts at Pioneer Park.
Oh.
So there's 6 courts down there. We're going to rebuild those. We do a method called post-tension. It comes a concrete slab, this giant concrete slab, and it's held together with it's got some tension on it, so it's held together. So even if it cracks, it won't separate and twist. So they're pretty much a lifetime sort of surface. Where,
Nice.
you know, like asphalt ones, yeah, you own them for about 15 years, and then all of a sudden they are lifting and moving
Right.
and twisting. So.
Right.
So that's a really fun project. I'm excited about that one. And we've always got some cool things going. Sky Point gets a facelift this year. New sails on Sky Point, and we're going to get that painted. So that's another fun project.
That's a park and rec project?
Surprisingly enough, that is parks.
How did that happen?
I think we're just the entity that will take anything. So it's
I didn't know anybody had control of Sky Park.
yeah.
Okay.
Sky Point
okay.
is actually under Parks and Rec. There's a whole stretch, you know, all along there is all those little corners that have plants on them.
Yeah.
That's all park.
That is you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're lovely.
They do look nice. Yeah.
They look very nice. Now, Mike, when I was growing up here, there were ice skating rinks all over Billings in the parks, and of course now it's just Veterans Park.
It's the only one we currently do. Yes.
Okay, and of course this last winter,
It's marginal. Yeah.
yeah, well, it just didn't last very long. But why were they pulled?
So they're a huge expense. So back in the day, and I wasn't here when they were doing them, they actually split the maintenance staff in half in the winter. And half of them would work in the morning, and then the other half would come in the afternoon, evening. And so the morning people would do the maintenance activities that need to happen during the day, you know, opening bathrooms or whatever, and then, you know, cleaning up the ice. And then the ones that came in the evening, they would kind of help run the ice skating rinks and then flood them again each night.
Oh,
And so, you know, they would flood them and get them ready, and then the next morning we'd open them up and plow them off if they needed. And so if you think about it, splits the staff in half so they can't get as much work done, you know, during the day, and then they're very focused on those ice rinks. And so they used to do them all over, you know, Castle Rock Park, Gorham Park, Optimus Park, you know,
South Park,
South Park.
they all had 'em.
Yeah, they all had ice rinks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you have a rating system, or do you monitor or poll like the most popular activities, physical activities, recreational activities in the community to determine what you do?
To a point, you know, some of the things are just driven automatically. You know, we need restrooms because people, you know, if
Yeah.
you're going to invite somebody to a space for 2 or 3 hours, you have to provide them a restroom. Playgrounds are, you know, you have to have a playground, you know, because you know, that's bringing kids and getting them active and stuff like that. So there's certain things like that. But we have done studies, you know, as to what the community would like to have for activities. You know, so they always trails rate very high. People like hot trails, and so we've got a lot of really cool
Now,
trails.
do you work with TrailNet, or are they a separate entity?
Well, they're a separate entity, but we work together. We would call them, and they would call us partners.
Oh, okay,
And so you know
okay.
they do a lot of funding. They're
The trail on the rims is
isn't that fantastic?
lovely.
Yeah, I got to walk it just yesterday over my lunch hours.
Really?
Yeah.
All the way down?
Yeah, just
Oh,
a
good for
beautiful
you.
day,
Yeah.
nice and sunny, crisp, and so yeah, I enjoyed my walk.
Nice work.
Oh yeah, it's a great trail. And TrailNet was very instrumental in getting that one pushed through. So we appreciate everything they do. They're more the funding arm of it,
Okay.
but they also bring a lot of ideas to us. And so work really closely with Christy Drake, and that's another project we have going this summer. At Lillis Park, we have a trail that goes east-west on that strip
Okay.
of Lillis, and that trail is not in very good shape. And Christy spearheaded and got us all together, and we went out and got a grant to redo that trail. So that'll start sometime this summer.
That'll be great.
Yeah. So,
All right.
you know, when you talk about projects, but back to the activities and how we
Yeah.
kind of program spaces, we do look at those, you know, those surveys that we do and say, oh, look, aquatics ranks really high. We really need to look at pool space and things like that in our public domain. It's not very popular. We haven't been able to get one really built in the public sphere in a while, but they're very popular. Trails, basketball courts, those things all rank fairly high. You know, so but people always say, you know, tennis courts are in there. Pickleball seems to be coming up. Playgrounds are hugely important, and if you have a playground, you have to have swings in it. I've learned that one. If you can't build them without swings, because kids have to have swings.
Well, yeah.
Yes. I don't know why I thought they didn't.
Okay, well, we're just about out of time, Mike. I want to thank you for being with us and for all the good work that the Park and Rec Department is doing.
Yeah. So if I have just another 30 seconds
You
here.
do.
Good. So our camp flyer is out right now, and,
Okay.
and it stays out, and that'll give you all the activities that we offer from summer all the way into the fall.
Good.
So if people look on there, or they can look at our website, and they can look at those camps. Registration opens April 1st. So people need to get active and get ready to go.
Right.
And that registration will stay open all summer long. So people
Good.
can come down to our office and buy pool passes, all of those things. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all. We're starting summer, so
All
it's
right.
an exciting time.
It is
Yeah.
a busy time.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. Thanks again for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
And thank you for joining us on Your City. We'll see you next time.